Coming to you live from a little grass shack in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's the Junior Kekuewa Jr. Show, starring Junior Kekuewa Jr.
Hurry up.
Join Junior along with the Wayne Borje Band as he makes any kind from Hawaii.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Junior Kekuewa Jr.
How you always. But I tell you, whoa, hey, okay, all right, enough. All right, get out. Okay, where I come from, that's what we do. We just say, hey, get out. All right, so we have to start with the attitude of gratitude. Welcome to another podcast. I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. So just, recapping, like, okay, where are you in the podcast? Well, males are 65.1%. You remember when women were coming up? Okay, they're 34.2%. Non-specified, we got a few of those, 0.7%. They don't know who they are. And that's probably why they're listening to the podcast, okay, because they will find out. Okay, and the demographics, we have 0 to 17-year-olds. We have 4%. Okay, so that's why we keep the show clean, all right, for those people. Okay, 18 to 22, okay, and then 23 to 27, 3.4, 28 to 34, 5.8, and then the lion's share of our demographics, 35 to dead. Okay, 35 to dead. If that's you, if you're dead and you're still listening to the podcast, we really appreciate you because, I mean, hey, that's dedication, okay? Anyway, so the last three countries, Saudi Arabia, people are listening in Saudi. So we'd like to say, yes, hi to people in Saudi. So Saudi, Belgium, and Sweden are amongst the three countries that recently joined us. So on today's podcast, I'm going to do something a little bit different that I don't normally do. And I'm going to talk about manifestation. It's something I manifested as a child, from childhood. And, these things play out in your subconscious, even if you don't think so. Even if you think it's no big deal, whatever. But they do, okay? And I'm going to tell you about my horse. But most importantly, this podcast is about a very instrumental person in my life. And I did not know that having a horse or fulfilling my dream of having a horse. Okay, because that's all I knew, right? I wanted a horse. Okay, that's all I knew. And it would introduce me to a man that changed my life. Okay, really, really changed my life. And his name is Harrison Chong. Okay, so I'm going to say a name. I'm going to say his name. My attorney goes, hey, no names. But I will say Harrison Chong, and this is dedicated to Harrison. Now, Harrison passed away recently due to, health things, and but he changed my life. He was the epitome of humbleness, okay? And humbleness does not mean meek and whatever. He was not meek. He was a strong dude, okay? Mentally strong. This guy was, but more than anything, he loved horses. Okay. And that's the one thing we had in common. And horses loved him. Oh my God. They all behaved when he got on. They knew who was the boss. But it wasn't really the boss kind of thing. It was a love kind of thing. And I saw that because horses would just respond to him. He was like the Dr. Phil of horses. I always referred to him as the horse whisperer. So anyway, so let's go back to the beginning because this is going to take a while. So how did this thing start and why did I want a horse and how did that come to be and, like that, right? Okay, so let me first tell you that all of this is subconscious. Okay, so whatever's in your subconscious as a belief, and that belief could be, I want a horse or I desire a horse, right? And I always say that words like want and need will keep you in lack, okay? Because basically they are terms of lack. So you should say, I desire. Okay, but because most people say I want and I need, I say want and need a lot to describe things. Okay, but when you say it, okay, say desire. Change your words. So anyway, so here I am, I'm 12 years old, right? My classmate has a ranch. His parents have a ranch. And so I decide to go up and hang out, right? And this was, so usually I spent my summers doing different things. So one summer when I was 12-year-old summer, I think I was 7th grade or something like that. I decided, okay, well, let's explore the ranch life and let's see what that's all about. And I always admired horses. I used to pass horses, where I come from. The road goes right next to pastures and stuff, and you see all kinds of horses, and you go, wow, it would be kind of cool to have a horse, And there's several things that my mom and dad would not condone, okay? And all of these things, well, not all, but most of them in adult life, I just bought for the sake of going, okay, I had one, right? So one of them was a mini bike. Okay, never did that. One of them was a pellet gun. Okay, did that. Yeah, I mean, these little things, they were little things, okay? And because they knew I was dangerous. I was very dangerous. When I was a kid, you don't want to put a pellet gun in my hands because I would shoot people. Okay, and this is exactly why I don't run a country, because I would be pressing buttons. Okay, I'm just that kind of person. I'm a no nonsense kind of person on the podcast. Yeah, I'm this this funny uncle, but I mean business sometimes. Okay, and so there's two sides of me. Okay, anyway, so you guys get to know more of the real me on the podcast. The other people only know the show business me or the teacher me or that kind of thing. You guys get everything. Okay, you guys get me. And I'm going to tell you, I was that kind of kid, okay? So you don't want to give me a pellet gun. People would go home crying. So anyway, one of the things was a horse, because I said, Mom, can I have a horse? Right? Because I was the kind of kid that would just come out with it. Mom, can I have a horse? No, we're not doing a horse. Are you crazy? So, she would say, are you kidding? And I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. I want a horse. She would say, no. So I'm like, okay. So, because my dad was like, he was neither here nor there, and he didn't really, he just went to work and he came home and, he just didn't want to hear us. So my mom handled all the decision-making stuff, and she wore the pants in the house. And we'll talk about that kind of stuff on a relationship podcast. Anyway, so I guess because, I couldn't have a horse, I thought, well, okay, I could go to the ranch and experience a horse, go ride a horse, right? So I spent the summer of my 12-year-old year at the ranch. And it was awesome. It was amazing, and they taught us how to brush the horses. They taught us all about horses, how to clean the hooves and stuff. And we were doing all of that. And we were like 7th graders. We were picking up the horses' hoofs and cleaning them and doing all of that stuff, right? So anyway, so that happened, and we started learning, and we started being around the horse. Now, towards the end of summer, I think it was the middle of summer, my classmate got a brand new horse, and the horse's name was Firecracker. And if you look at my horse and you look at his horse, the only difference was that his horse was a little bit more reddish brown, okay? And my horse was just brown, okay? But the similarities was spooky. It was really spooky. His horse had a white blaze right down the front on the face, okay? My horse, white blaze right down on the front. My horse had white socks. She only had 2 of them on the back hind legs. And his horse had 4 socks, 4 white socks, okay? And it was all even. So his horse was a beautiful horse. And his horse was a young horse. You usually get horses after they're broken about 2 years old. And so that was the case with his. And they put Firecracker in this sacred stall. I mean, it wasn't with the other horses. It was like way on the side. So Firecracker had his own special stall. And everybody went to pet Firecracker, and I thought Firecracker was, the best horse. And it was probably because I couldn't ride her, or him. It was a him. My horse was a her. Okay. And my horse's name was Duchess. And I named my horse Bebe Girl because I thought Duchess was a little too stuffy. Okay. So anyway, we couldn't ride Firecracker. Okay, so that made it even more desirable, right? Like, oh man, we can't ride Firecracker, so we used to pet Firecracker, everything, okay, except ride. We couldn't ride. So anyway, that happened as a kid, and in my mind, I said, "Damn it, I think I said, damn it. I'm not sure. I do that now. And that's when I make up my mind. That's when I form the center point, okay? And we'll get into that. But I said, damn it, I'm going to have a horse just like Firecracker. And I said that when I was 12. No, the horse didn't show up until my 40s, okay? But it showed up in the most mysterious way, okay? So now we go along, the journey, right? And I see these shirts with horses on them. And I start wearing these shirts with horses on them, Ralph Lauren, right? And that was an embarrassing situation for me because I had a boss and I was making $5 an hour and he wore this shirt with a horse on it. And I love horses, right? And I was like, wow, where do you get these? He goes, oh, you get them down at this certain store. And I went down there and I saw, and I'm, oh my God, they're $125 a piece. Okay. And so shame came over me because I wasn't making that kind of money. And I said, damn it, one day I'm going to make enough money that all I'm going to wear are horsey shirts. And that's all I knew them as. I didn't know how important Ralph Lauren was or whatever. It wasn't a status thing for me. It was about the horse. So I start wearing these horse shirts, right? Horse this, horse that, horse. Now, pretty soon, I get a call. Now, I become a celebrity, okay? And then out of that, this girl that I've known for a while, I knew her from when my company started doing on-call services. We used to sell machines to hotels and businesses, and I would do the greeting, welcome to Turtle Bay for the front desk, press 1. For this, press 2, whatever. So I would do that kind of thing. And I met this girl because she worked for a golf course. So now she's getting people together for this Kamehameha Day parade. So it's a parade. There's horses. There's what we call a pa'u unit in Hawaii. And so this is a horse unit. And they have a princess. They have attendants and everybody's on horseback. So she calls me one day and she goes, hey, Junior, can you be our pa'u celebrity rider? And I'm like, whoa, it's been a long time since I've ridden a horse. I said, yeah, but I used to ride. I can ride. I used to barrel race. I used to do all kinds of crazy stuff with horses. So she said, yeah, can you come down and, come down to the ranch and we'll go riding. So I went down to the ranch. They put me on this horse, a very old gray horse, right? And we go riding, okay? Riding, we will go. And off we go up into the mountains of Kahuku. And we have a good time, and it's a social thing, and we're just talking, we're laughing, and we're just riding these horses slowly through the trails, and it took about an hour and a half or whatever, and then we come back to the ranch, and they put the horse away, and now I'm walking to my car, which I drove on the ranch, which was kind of insane because it was a brand new Infiniti G37S, and or G30, I think it was a G36 back in those days. And it was a sports car and all these trucks are there. And the road was like, I had to really navigate carefully because it was a truck kind of road, And so I'm standing there next to my car and we on the way to my car, right, we passed this round pen. They call it a round pen. And this is where they, keep the horses before they saddle them and whatever. And there's this horse in the round pen. And she goes, oh, that one's for sale. And I turn and I look and I see the horse. And she's got a bleached out mane and she's, very ghetto looking. And she's in the round pen. She's 2 years old. And she goes, you want to see her? And I go, Mommy, what am I going to do with a horse? Right? Okay, so I go over to the round pen. And Bebe Girl is there, right? Duchess, she's there. And oh, this is Duchess. And I go, oh, cool. She goes, you want to pet her? And I'm like, okay, whatever. All right. And so I'm game. So they open the round pen and they, she brings me in the round pen and I walk up to the horse. I mean, because I know horses, right? So I know how to approach a horse and all that stuff. And so I walk up to the horse. And I reach out, and the horse walks over to me and nudges me. And of course, the girls that are with me, right? They're girls, so they go, oh, she likes you, that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, Mommy, find out how much the guy wants and whatever. I said, but where am I going to keep them? She goes, well, we keep the horses here on the ranch. And there's these little sections of pasture that people rent. And I said, well, how much is the rent? Oh, that's, $100 a month. I'm like, oh, okay. It's not as bad as I thought, right? And how much is the food and, whatever, yada, yada. And so it's not as much as I thought. So I said, all right, go, whatever. Get a figure for me, get a number for me, and I'll see, I'll look into it, right? And meanwhile, I got to think about it, right? So I think about it, and all this stuff happens. Boom, I write the check, get the horse from this really nice guy. He gives me the horse. He gives me the saddle, bridle, everything, right? So I get this whole kit, right? And now I'm keeping the horse at the ranch. So pretty soon I'm driving out there, and this is a long drive from where I am. It's a 40-minute drive every morning, and I'm making the drive before the sun comes up, like 4:30 in the morning every day from town to go visit my horse, right? I have a horse now, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now I don't have the slightest recollection of how to train a horse or whatever, and she's basically raw. She's broken. You can ride her, right? But that's about it. She doesn't know anything else, right? So anyway, the day comes where I go, this is just too far of a ride. So this girl's sister takes me for a ride and goes, all right, let's go look at places. And she takes me around to look at places. Long story short, the last place, because all the places I saw was ghetto. I mean, really, it was in disrepair. It was shameful that horses were being kept in those places. And so she goes, well, there is one other place. And I'm like, where is that? And she goes, oh, Maunawili, over here. And I up the street. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, we were in Kailua. And she goes, okay, just for you Hawaii people that know these places, okay. And then she goes, oh, this one other place. And we come to this place, and I'll never forget the first time I saw it. We were driving, and I just got that vibration. I got that vibe. I got that feeling, right? And we're driving down into, like on the driveway, we're driving down into the place. And it looks like paradise. I mean, wow. It looked like a luxury subdivision for horses. That's what it looked like to me. Right. And I looked down and I saw the arena, and I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful arena. It's huge. Right. And then I look, and like everything's painted. Everything's nice. I mean, the conditions, everything. And I'm like, wow. So I go down. Right. And I meet the guy who would change my life forever. Harrison Chong. Okay. And she goes, oh, well, Harrison runs the place. And Harrison and his wife run the place. And I go and I meet Harrison, right? And he's this nice, quiet guy, nice Chinese guy, okay, like very quiet. And he comes up and he starts talking to us, and I meet him and everything. And I start getting the impression that this guy's not very impressed with very many things, right? And of course I meet him, everything, and we kind of kick it off okay. But he needs to see the horse. He wants to see the horse and whatever. And so I had to apply to be part of the association. And then I had to rent a paddock from one of the people that was part of the association. And so all of that happened. And then we moved the horse over. Now he starts working with my horse, and he starts liking my horse. And I'm like, thank God he likes my horse. Okay. So the kind of trainer that Harrison was like, I call him my sensei. And out of all sincerity and admiration, I call him my sensei because I had to call him something better than my trainer or my teacher. And that had a deeper sense of reverence for me, because he was like a martial arts trainer. This guy was like wax on, wax off. He really was. And he knew more about horses than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, anybody. Right? And I've watched guys work with horses. This guy was gifted. This guy was made for this. Okay. Now he was I found out after a while, he was a retired fire captain, and this was his love. This was his passion. This was his thing. Right. So he had retired from the fire department, and this is what he did. Okay, and he would train people's horses for a living, and he would teach people. So he taught all forms of equestrian riding. Western, he taught English, he taught everything, like anything and everything concerning horses he knew and he taught. Okay, so anyway, we go down the road, right? And I start learning, okay, because I have to learn how to ride my horse now, because it's not just a regular ranch horse anymore. Now my horse is developing skills, and he trained her like so good, right? Now her bleached mane started disappearing, because now she wasn't out in the pasture. She was in a paddock. Okay, she was spoiled. She was spoiled. She was my big dog, right? And I start, training with Harrison, and he starts training me. And he goes, all right. He takes me in the big arena, and he goes, you see that doo-doo pile? Okay, so a horse, went to the bathroom, number 2, in the middle of the arena. He goes, you see that? I go, yeah. He goes, all right, do a circle around that. And I'm like, oh, well, that's easy, right? I go over there. It's easy, right? Wrong. It's not. Okay, so I spend the whole lesson, 45-minute lesson circling the doodle pile, okay? And it starts to rain, and this is early in the year. And that place rains like early in the year. And he's yelling at me. Now, meanwhile, I have this blonde chick, okay? A woman. She's, I still feel for her. She's a really nice person. She was sitting in my car watching. Okay, now she looks like a Playboy model. All right, and she's sitting in. We were dating. She's sitting in the car. Okay, and my brand new sports car. Okay, so and she's sitting there and she's watching everything. And Harrison is yelling at me, right? He's yelling at me. And we had been training for a while, but that's the way he teaches. He was very passionate and a very emotional teacher, because, and anyway, he's yelling at me, and I'm doing all the wrong stuff too, right? So it was like watching Jim Carrey on a horse kind of thing. And I'm trying to get this horse to circle, and he's trying to show me how. So pretty soon he's like, all right, come down. So I get off, and he shows me, and wow, perfect circles. It's like perfect circles, right? And he goes, no, you're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. And then he kind of, so we go through this thing, 45 minutes of the circle around, right, the doo-doo pile, okay? So he does that. And then I go to the car after, I go put the horse away, clean up, shower the horse, all that stuff. And then I get in the car, and she goes, your trainer is something else. And I go, yeah, he is. She goes, no, I mean, he was yelling at you like the whole time almost. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, you let him yell at you? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, why do you do that? Why do you take that? I mean, she thought I was, some kind of, I don't know, celebrity. So she goes, why do you do that? And I'm like, you don't understand. It's a privilege to be taught by that guy. That guy is like the horse whisperer. Like, that guy is the man. Like, he is the real deal. Like, not everybody gets to train with him. And that was true. That was very true. I was blessed. Okay, so here, let's catch up to this point in manifestation. So this sat in my subconscious, horse, okay? And the image of Firecracker, because every time I thought about a horse, I thought about Firecracker, because it was the best horse I ever saw. Now, guess what? I have a horse, and so Bebe started losing her bleach and everything out of her mane. Her mane color started coming back, her natural color, and she was pretty reddish. So, like really almost like Firecracker. And she starts morphing into my dream horse, okay? Now, not only did I get the dream horse, but I got the dream trainer, the best trainer. Like this guy was the cream of the crop. You can't get better. I mean, really, if there was a better guy, I didn't meet him, and I did not hear about him. Okay, because every single person I talked to goes, yeah, Harrison. Yeah, he's the man. Yeah, that's the guy. You're lucky. Everybody told me, you're lucky. You're lucky you met Harrison. You're lucky, So it was a blessing. You think it was a coincidence? I don't think so. So this is how the superconscious or God works off your subconscious. Okay, whatever's in your subconscious. And for me, it was firecracker. For me, that was my horse reference. That was the reference point in my mind, right? And I had said when I was 12, I'm going to get a horse just like firecracker, right? Okay, so the other thing was my horse was a hot horse. Okay, so hot horses are horses that are hyper. They have a lot of energy. And in order to manage a hot horse, there's different things you have to do. One of them is you have to be very, very skilled in riding them. So I had to do a lot of work to just be able to ride her well. Okay, because Harrison used to tell me it's a difference. The difference is a Toyota between like a Toyota and a Ferrari. You have a Ferrari. This horse is a Ferrari. It's not a Toyota. You can't just yank it around and whatever, like the other kids or people that were riding. And there were a lot of kids around. And he goes, you can't yank your horse around like that. She is sensitive. You just tap her. You just move and she moves. You switch your body position and she'll go. And I'm like, whoa. And this is the kind of stuff I had to learn. So I had to learn to be sensitive. I had to tune in to the horse. And my reactions and reflexes had to be adjusted, right? I had to be very skillful and very thoughtful. Harrison taught me to be thoughtful. You know what happens when you get taught to be thoughtful? It spills over into everything in your life, and you become thoughtful with people. You become thoughtful with horses. You become thoughtful with yourself. So I became thoughtful, right? This guy changed my life. He changed my whole life. So we went from the circle, right, to like at the high point of training. So here's what happened, right? So I had this relationship with Harrison for 11 years. Okay, now he started entering her in championships and winning. So she won all kinds of stuff with Harrison, right? With Harrison on her. And so he won buckles, he won tournaments, he won a lot of money with Baby. And I called her Bebe Girl. But he won a lot of stuff, right? And then he wanted to teach me, and I'm like, no, and that's okay. I just want to come and enjoy and learn. And so I did that for a while. And years went by, and pretty soon I was just signing checks. I would pay for the paddock. I would send Harrison money, and just send checks in the mail, that kind of thing. And then pretty soon it occurred to me, like years later, dude, that's how I talk to myself. So I get this voice in my head, dude, you're not being grateful. You have the best horse, the very best horse. She was also the fastest horse. Okay. Hyper horse, right? Like the owner, like me, right? Same ADHD. I had an ADHD horse. Okay, she was kind of like that. And so, you have the best horse. You have the best trainer. She's at the best place. Everything about her and surrounding her is the very, very best. But you're not making use of her. Because I used to go down, I used to ride on the trail for half hour, and then give her a bath, put her away, and then come back next month kind of thing, or whenever I had time, because I was busy. I was doing shows. I was doing consulting. I had my 4 companies, and I was working them all. I was producing albums. I was doing all kinds of stuff in the middle. And that was my escape. That was my Shangri-La. That farm was my paradise. It was where I went. That was my happy place. I went there, and I called it my happy place on social media. And that was where I went to reinvigorate myself, to be happy, because everything else was work. Everything else was boom, 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 1, 2, 3, ABC, kind of, like that. And so anyway, Harrison starts to teach me other things. And then so when I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to commit to learning. We started to train. Okay, and we trained rain or shine. Sometimes it was pouring rain, and I mean pouring, and I'm soaking wet in the arena on Baby with a saddle, everything. It's just soaking wet, and I'm training in the rain. Okay, now what was I doing? I was doing Western dressage. Okay, so I did Western dressage and that kind of thing, and then it was sorting training, like train for sorting. He had a mechanical cow. And he used to run this mechanical cow, and Baby used to react to the cow. So, he was like, well, get ready. I'm going to the left. And I would get ready and Baby would just shoot to the left. And I mean, this horse was fast. So horses automatically react to cows, right? And then they say that if the horse has cow in them, which means that if they naturally react to cows, they will naturally do the sorting process. And all you have to do, really, you don't have to yank them around to do it. You just have to allow them, right? So you have to allow. But you have to, move your hands so that the rein hits their neck and they turn and that kind of thing. And so it was a very, very, nerve-wracking process. And I got bucked off a couple times because I reacted too fast. At one time, because my leg accidentally hit her. Accidentally, my leg just kind of like swung in and hit her in the side, and I got bucked off, right? And it wasn't that bad. It happened so fast that, it was more of a shock than anything else, and I was on the ground in the arena, and I get up, dust myself off, and jump back on again. Okay, and horses don't hold grudges. Okay, thank God, because that could have been really bad. But so anyway, so I go through all these things with Harrison. And through the process, I learned about life. Through the process, I learned about things bigger than horsemanship. Through the process, I start becoming a better teacher at my school, okay, and with my life coaching. Because now I'm learning principles from him that I go, oh, this just mirrors my teaching, okay, because he's teaching me, right, and in the way that he's teaching me, it affected my teaching because I started being thoughtful. I started being more thoughtful, which makes you more empathetic, which allows you to put yourself in the client's shoes. Okay. And so, this relationship went on and on and on. And finally, my best friend died and he was my business partner. So he died and I didn't have time to go out anymore. And so, long story short, he takes my horse back to the ranch where we started, and I rent a place, and pretty soon I gave her to this other lady who took her to the Big Island. And, the end of the story is sad, so I'm not going to tell that part of the story, what happened on the Big Island. But I'm not going to tell that part. I really don't talk about that part. It's just too depressing. But, okay, I gave her away because she was family. I couldn't sell her. It didn't feel right, okay? She was worth about $26,000. But, and we had her up we tried to look for like a good home for her, and then we were going to like sell her. But then I kind of backed out of that process, and I'm like, no, I cannot. So I gave her away. Anyway, okay, but the day that he took her out there, he took a picture with her. And I still have that picture. And that's when he delivered her out to the ranch. And she had gone full circle. She was this ranch horse that was really talented, really gifted, okay? Came into my life, right? All these things manifested. And I met Harrison, who changed my life. So here's the thing. When God works in your life, okay, according to what's in your subconscious, according to your desires in your subconscious, if you believe in God, if you believe in, higher source, or however you believe, the superconscious, okay? But if you believe that way, you start to see the positive things that come about, okay? And this guy just loved what he did, and he loved the animals, and they loved him, and you can tell. You can tell. I mean, it was a special gift that he had. So not only, recapping, right? Not only did I get the best horse, the best place, I got the best trainer. And that trainer trained me. And I learned from him, and I was like, whoa. So I started referring to him as my sensei. I mean, a long time before that relationship ended. And I used to call him my sensei, and I used to proudly tell people, this is my sensei. I used to be on the radio. So another thing about Harrison is that one time, he was the best at what he did. And one day he told me, he goes, this is a thankless job. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, this is a thankless job, like what he does, right? He kind of looked at it like that. And I go, you mean people don't thank you? He goes, no, not always. He goes, sometimes people just take this for granted because people would come down, right, pay for their daughter's lessons. They would go through the thing. He would have to deal with them. And then, when they get their medals and the season is over and they're done with the, horse portion of their life, they move on. So he was telling me, he goes, no, this is a thankless profession. So I said, okay. So I was on the radio at the time. I was a local celebrity on the radio kind of thing. And I would thank him every day. I would think up an excuse to bring him up in conversation, to bring my horse up in conversation, right? To relate some kind of story or some kind of thing or whatever to my horse or to Harrison. And I used to make jokes, about him training me, and whatever. But I used to call him Hawaii's best equestrian trainer. I always referred to him as Hawaii's best, and I always thanked him on the radio. Now, here's the good part. All of his friends heard that. Okay, so the people that knew him in the horse community, I really didn't consider myself part of the horse community. I was like a guest, I look at it that way. Like, I'm not a horse enthusiast per se. I just owned a horse. That was just my dream. I was just living my dream, But these people were serious horse people, like serious. They listened to country music. I mean, like everything. They dressed country, everything. They dressed like cowboys, right? They lived the cowboy life and they did cowboy stuff. And I thought, wow, that is so cool if I could do that. Okay. But you can't live on both sides of the street. Okay. So you can't say, okay, I'm going to live this way. And then, I'm going to live that way. Okay. I'm going to live this way. Okay. But here's what you can do. You can experience it, okay? You can be in it, but not of it. Okay, Christians say you can be in the world, but not of the world. And that's another thing I was in, but not of. It was the same way with radio, okay? Yes, I became a celebrity. Yes, I did all that stuff. Yes, I did radio, television, all that stuff, okay? But I was in it, not of it. I don't consider myself having, that I was like in the industry and whatever. Okay. I was just there living my dream. And here I was in the horse community. They were very good to me. Like, I love the people in the horse community because they put up with me. They put up with me. They go, oh, well, there's that radio guy. There's that celebrity guy. And yeah, he's riding with us today, and I just, this guy, Greg, who owns a ranch, right? This guy, Greg, he's on my Facebook. And I'm very honored. I'm very honored that they're on my Facebook. His father owned the ranch, and then now he owns it, And one day he was sitting on his horse next to me, and we were at a sorting event. We were waiting to, do our thing and whatever, do the sorting. And he looked over at me and he said, Junior, what do you do now? And I didn't want to tell him. And I said, I'm a consultant. And I was a consultant. I own VMAC Consultants. You can look it up. It's a thing, VMAC Consultants, right? And I said, I'm a consultant, right? Because it sounded real weird to ranch people, right? Oh, well, I'm on the radio. I'm a celebrity. I'm an entertainer. I'm a, whatever. And that's not me, right? So I just said, I'm a consultant. Because I was in his world. I was enjoying his world. I was a guest in his world. I was not of his world. Okay. I was a guest. I considered myself a guest. And it was an honor and it was a pleasure to be involved with horse people. And that came through Harrison. Yes, I met the ranch people. Yes, I knew Greg from when I bought the horse. I bought the horse from somebody else, but it was at Greg's ranch. It's Gunstock Ranch. I can say that. Gunstock Ranch in Kahuku, right? But I was a guest, and I was very humble about that. I don't look humble. I'm very, because I make people laugh. I tell jokes. I'm very extroverted, okay? But I was very humble about that, and I really kept a lot close to my chest because in my world, when I went over there, in their world, when I was in their world, they were the stars. When I was in their world, they were the celebrities, and I never lost that perspective because, you gotta understand where you are. Okay. You gotta understand And in life, you need to stay in your lane. You need to establish your lane and stay in your lane. Okay. Now, Harrison was like, he did everything for me. He took me to go work cows. Sorry. So we would go and rent cows, like rent 10 or 12 cows. And there was this one time we went to this ranch, and so we would pay. So I would bring money and give it to him, and then he would pay the guy, and then we would use his cows. Okay. And it was to practice sorting. So we would be in the arena, practice sorting. Now, Harrison was doing something, and he was, I think he was fixing something or whatever. And I had my camera, and there was this bull, this young bull. It was a small bull in the middle of the corral. And he was going to chase the bull out and then bring the cows in. And the bull was there. And I thought, wow, this is such a cool thing to have the bull standing right in the middle of the arena. So I got my camera out because I'm thinking social media post, right? And so I start walking up to the bull, like slowly, right? And I'm videoing the bull. Okay, I have it on my Facebook account. And I'm walking up to the bull, right? Videoing, my video's on, and I'm walking up slowly to the bull, and the bull's just standing there and looking at me, right? And then pretty soon, reality hits, okay? Reality hits. Like I get close to the bull, and the bull is just standing still, right? But I realize, dude, that's how I talk to myself. Dude, that's a bull. And then I go, oh, and I start backing up slowly, right? It's like, oh man, that's a bull. And then Harrison looks at me, and he knows what I'm thinking. I mean, this is his world. He knows what I'm thinking, and he goes, you don't have to worry about that bull. That bull's okay. And right, and I'm backing up already. But it was these things that I'll never forget. I'll never forget working cattle with him, right? I got a chance to be on his team once. And I have pictures of that sorting on Facebook, on my Facebook account and my Instagram. There's also so I formed a company called Royal Equine Hawaii during the time that I had Bebe, so I could write off expenses. And I also, declared earnings and stuff from the sorting events. So I would, put in the money from the sorting. I would pay for the feed, and we would loan the company money so that we could, pay the rent, pay everything and whatever. So anyway, I had this company. So it's on Instagram. If you want to look for it, it's called Royal Equine Hawaii. It's also on Facebook, and you'll see Harrison. You'll see videos of Harrison. You'll see throughout the years the progression of what Bebe did and her awards. Like everything is documented. Okay. So, when I do podcasts or when I do videos or when I do lives on social media and stuff like that, I mean, everything can be seen. I purposely put up everything because, that's a record of what I did. And the reason I put it up is because if I can, you can. Okay. I'm here to show people that can, because I started on a sidewalk. Okay. I got all the way down to sidewalk. Okay. What's below sidewalk? Prison. What's below prison? Graveyard. So I got down to sidewalk, and I started going, well, we need to go up. And so it came from sidewalk up. And if I can, you can. Okay. If I can, anybody can. Okay. But Harrison was the one who really showed me how much I can. Okay. And he showed me the mental game. He showed me how to focus. He taught me how to focus. And he would be there giving me equations, like mathematical equations that just tied my brain in knots, right? And I would give him the answer. And he would sit there and go, can't be. And I was like, what? And he would let me figure it out, right? And, I'm so slow in math, right? My ADHD. And there was a lot of abuse involved in my childhood about math and related to math. So I just kind of shut it out, right? But he helped me work through that. He helped me work through the process. And then he started equating things to music because he thought that I would understand that better. And it was, to me, it was kind of funny, because he would relate everything to like a guitar or musical notes or whatever, or beats, right? And he would go, okay, when you're running the patterns in Western dressage, think of beats and whatever, quarter notes. And he would, he would like make everything fit me. And that's the kind of guy he was. He wasn't insistent on his way. He wasn't insistent or he wasn't there to tell you that he was the man. But he was the man. He was definitely the man. But he wasn't there demonstrating or promoting or pushing the fact that he was the man, right? He was very humble. He was very accommodating. But he had a way of showing love. Okay, now this is what I talk about when I say love energy. Okay, he had that energy and the horses got it right away. And you can tell the moment he would get on a horse, the whole personality of the horse would change. Totally. And I used to love, I have tons of videos of him riding Bebe. And the reason why I took the videos is because it was like watching a ballet. When he got on the horse, like it was like watching a carefully scripted ballet. It was unreal. Like he was the best there was, but he was the best because of his heart. He was the best because, you know, the way that he gave of himself to the horses, the way he gave of himself to the people, the way he did what he did, it was the gifts that he had, or let's say it another way, the mana that he had. And this was how he operated. This is how he lived. He lived like that. Like he did so much for me. Like he would, you know, if he charged me for everything he did, if he charged me for, you know, whatever, like everything, like he would have been so much more. You know, he used to take me with his truck and we used to go do stuff and pick up feed and do all kinds of stuff. Like, you know, and so, but he really cared about, number one, what he did. Number two, the horses. Maybe the horses first and then what he did. But wow, how he changed my life. Like totally turned my life around and my teaching. So he not only affected my life, but the way I taught. And I became more thoughtful with my teaching. And guess what? I got better results out of my teaching. And I was like, whoa. So what I'm really telling you, I'm telling you about Harrison. I'm honoring Harrison. I miss Harrison. I'm like, wow, like what a magical time in my life that was when I knew him and when he was teaching me, right? And then, you know, when my friend died, I didn't have time. I couldn't break away to go do that. I had to tend to my companies. And so I had to give it up. Okay, because you can't maintain everything, right? You have to give some stuff up. And you have to also recognize that there is a season for everything. Okay, and it's okay to let go of things. And when I had to let go, I had to let go. I was like, okay, all right, I let go. But what a magical 11 years. Okay, and there's no shoulda, woulda, coulda. Everything that was supposed to happen, happened. But not only did my desire of a horse materialize with, you know, probably just as good a horse, if not better. I believe Bebe was better. Okay. Because of all the championships, because of the multi-disciplines, because Harrison taught her everything. He even jumped her. He even practiced jumping on her. Like she could do everything. And he would tell me, he goes, oh, you know, this week I jumped her. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, if you want to jump her, you can, but you got to go put on a helmet and whatever. And I'm like, no, that's okay. That's all right. I'm not that ambitious. So, you know, so I never did that. Okay. But I did Western dressage. And there was a story, and this story is going to be for another podcast. But when I competed in Western dressage and I came in second, okay, and there's a back end to that story, but I came in second. I won 2 red ribbons. Okay, it was not what I would call something that I would necessarily be proud of, but I'm going to tell you on another podcast. Okay, but Harrison trained me for that. We trained and trained and trained and trained. But the biggest thing that happened was I got lucky in the sorting events. Okay, and we were training for sorting most of all, and so I got lucky in the sorting events. I got on the right team, and this lady and her 2 daughters, and they were. Like I said, I was a guest. Okay, they were tops. They were so good, and we came in second as a team on team sorting, and I was totally shocked when I heard that. I'm like, what? We won second place, and they go, yeah, dude, second place. And so I went to the party They had a party where they gave out the awards and stuff. And that was the proudest day of my life when I got the award. Because I was like, whoa, like I got an award. Like I was on a second place team. I was like, whoa, right? I got that one time I was with Harrison on his team. And the thing about sorting, and I'm kind of like going to switch back and forth, but the thing about team sorting is you rely on people in the team and you don't want to be the weakest link. And the only thing that I was proud of in that sorting event that I went to on the ranch, back at the ranch, was that I didn't let the team down. And when I was on the team with Harrison, I showed Harrison that, I learned something and yeah, okay, here we go. And then the second place happened and I was like, whoa. Anyway, thank you, Harrison. I love you. I miss you. Thank you for everything you did for me and Bebe. We will always remember you, and you are always the man number one. All right. Hey, we want to thank Voice Master, family of service companies, AFM Hawaii Music, and Darren Chinin. His music, you can get it on there at afmhawaiimusic.com. Till next time, I'm Junior Kekuewa saying mahalo and aloha.